if we didn't get a star, I really think that would be the end of us. That's the amount of pressure that it was, though. If we don't get the star, we're 2.5 years of my life of an amount of funds going into this restaurant is done for. Not only would we need to find another 500,000 to float us for another year, the amount of staff that we would probably lose. That's why I was like so anxious leading up to Michelin. And then Michelin came around and like literally 180 the business drastically that night, like within 24 hours, 700 resos booked. The day after, another 600 booked. So you're talking about 1,300 reservations booked in 48 hours.
Hey everyone, welcome to Tasting Notes Toronto. I'm Alex Abbott Boyd. In this episode, I sit down with Chef Eric Chong. In 2025, Chef Eric was named by the Michelin Guide as the most promising young chef in Toronto, and his restaurant, aKin, earned a Michelin Star, the only restaurant to earn a star in Toronto last year. Chef Eric has an incredible story. Just after graduating college, he entered and won MasterChef Canada's first season. At 22, he opened his first restaurant, R&D, where he actually worked as a sous chef, hiring a head chef above him to teach him the ropes of running a kitchen. Later, when the Michelin Guide came to Toronto, Chef Eric decided it was finally time to go all in on earning a Michelin star, opening aKin to showcase his take on modern Asian cuisine. If you're curious what chasing a Michelin star really looks like behind the scenes, you're going to want to stick around. Just a quick note before we begin that if you've been enjoying our episode, a quick rating or thumbs up really goes a long way to helping other people discover the show. Here's my conversation with Chef Eric Chong. Chef Eric, thank you so much for being here.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for making the journey down here.
Of course, and congrats again on the Michelin star.
Thank you.
It's funny, I read that you actually had originally planned to be a chemical engineer. What pulled you in that direction early on, and how did you end up pivoting into food?
I think growing up in an Asian household with strong family values and strong career values, I think in Asian culture, everybody really focuses on like confident careers that your family can be proud of. Parents really wanted me to either be a doctor, lawyer, or an engineer. I wasn't very good at biology. I didn't really want to argue too much, so I went with the engineering path. So I tried computer, mechanical. Chemical was the one that seemed to fit me most, and then I pursued that, finished, graduated, worked as a chemical engineer for 6 months, and then I for sure knew it wasn't for me.
Okay.
At least like during school, I was like, oh man, I'm not really that passionate about this. It's not really for me, but my parents always said, you can decide after you get a degree, at least finish graduating and get a degree, and then you can decide.
So when did food start to become a bigger passion of yours?
Food was always a passion of mine. There was photos of me when I was like 6 years old, folding dumplings with my grandfather. My whole family like revolves around food. My grandfather was a self-taught dim sum chef. My mom's also an incredible cook. Everything was around food, and I was like a really fat kid growing up, loved to eat. And then I did always want it to be a career of mine, but even my grandfather was like, oh, don't do it as a career. Like the hours are long, blah, blah, blah. And then my parents were like, no, don't do it. You're not gonna make any money. Just be working long hours. And then eventually we would always watch cooking shows together, whether that's Food Network or MasterChef. And when it came to Canada, I just thought it would be fun to just apply for fun. I didn't think it would be the career it is today, or it led me to where I am today.
So you thought you would apply to MasterChef just to have that experience of being on it?
I just thought it was a good opportunity to potentially be on a show that I've watched with my family for many years. We watched the US version, like seasons 1 through 5, 6. So 6 years of watching MasterChef US with my family. And then my mom's hairdresser was like, hey, MasterChef's coming to Canada. She's, oh, cool. Maybe I'll tell my son to join. And then I casually like, yeah, sure. I would like to join. But if I'm going to commit myself to something, like anything, whether that's engineering or anything I apply myself to, I want to give it my all. So I don't really want to do it like any half measures. So I quit my job and started training, like self-isolation in my home kitchen and just training.
How long did you have after you had applied and they said, okay, you're going to be in this first season until shooting?
I had about 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay. Oh, that's
not too long.
That's not a lot of time.
Yeah. Cause like I actually got missed in the live casting call. So I thought I didn't make it on the show. There's like a huge application process, but yeah, I literally got the call when I was in Cuba, like vacationing with my friends. Okay. Hey, you're in the top 50. We're going to start filming in 3 weeks. And then that's when I like quit my job, came back and just started like testing recipes and just training.
Do you think that maybe because it was a show that you had watched with your family, it was a way into the food world that they would understand?
I think had I not won, for sure, I would not be a chef today. I needed to win to get the accolades to open the doors to get my family and parents' approval for sure.
Do you feel like, yeah, I had heard you say that, or maybe I read that you had said that somewhere, that if you didn't win, you weren't going to continue in
Mhm.
food. Like, what if you had come in second? You still don't think that would have been enough to earn the right to permanently quit engineering?
Not in my parents' eyes, I think. At least if you won, you're something that your family can be proud of. There's something they can stand behind. Asian culture is really about like face, how much you can brag about your children. Nobody really wants to talk about your son came second place. Now he's trying to be a chef because there will always be that doubt. If you can't
Yeah.
even beat like another home cook, why are you going to compete against professional chefs?
What happened for you after winning?
So after winning, I went to literally on the finale night after I got the awards and shook the judges' hands. Alvin was like, "Hey, I want to bring you with me to Asia and train you. I want to take you under my wing." And I was like, "Oh,
It was
obviously."
one of the
He
judges?
was one of the judges, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was very taken back by that because at the time he was like a celebrity chef. Like he had 2 Michelin stars. So I was like, "Yeah, this is a lifetime opportunity. Of course, I can't say no." So
Oh.
then the show wrapped up around October, and then he flew me out in December to do an event with him in Singapore, and then work with him at his 2-star restaurant Bonavation in Hong Kong
Yeah.
for several months. At that time, when I was with him, was the same year he got awarded 3 Michelin stars.
Okay. And this
Um,
this is your first experience cooking in a kitchen too?
in a professional kitchen,
Yeah.
yeah. So like in the event that I did, the very first one I got thrown into was like for about 600 people in Singapore, and it was crazy. The hours were insane. It was like a 12, 14-hour day, which at the time was like unfathomable. Here now it's like the norm, right?
Yeah.
But like back then when you're not used to it, your neck hurts from looking down, your wrist hurts, like everything you're just not used to being on your feet that long.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a huge eye opener, but it was everything I ever dreamed of. Yeah, I loved every moment of it.
Why do you think he chose you to do that? Do you think it's just because you won, or you think there was something more that he saw in you?
I think he saw one, a lot of potential, but two, a little piece of himself in me. He was also a self-taught engineer, or not, he was also a engineer by trade and then a self-taught chef. So it's the same thing as me. I went to school as engineering. We had a similar mind, similar way of approaching food and thinking about hospitality. And then being self-taught, you can actually, being an engineer and self-taught, you can learn quite similarly in the fashion that he learned.
Do you think that engineering, especially the chemical engineering background, do you ever incorporate some elements in your cooking, maybe
I,
like the molecular gastronomy or those kind of techniques?
on paper, it would make sense, but I forgot everything in terms of like chemistry and like periodic table and everything. I
Yeah.
definitely didn't retain any of that, but I think
Yeah.
the most important trait of going to school of engineering was your thought process, the way you approach business and actually think about food, think how to create things logistically, efficiently, how to scale. And
Yeah.
of course, the math is a huge strength, how to work Excel, how to work Word, like all these things that aren't necessarily taught to culinary students have been vital to my success of how to operate businesses and manage people. So I don't regret going to engineering at all because the amount of people I come across in the industry that have very poor math skills, and like math is quite fundamental to what we do in terms of all my recipes are to the gram. When we scale things, it's really important. When we cost things, it's equally as important. So I don't regret doing engineering in any sense at all.
I studied economics, just similar ability to get really good at math. You wouldn't think you need to do that to start a wine business, but I found it very helpful for pretty much the same reasons. Now, Alvin wasn't just putting you to work in Asia, was he? It was also exposing you to the world of fine dining there.
Yeah, so that's what's really great about Alvin. I think everybody who's worked with him or been around his circle can vouch for. He will pay for every single meal he ever takes you to. Sometimes he's not even there and he'll still pay for the meal because
Wow.
he finds it the best way to learn is by experiencing people at their best. So I try and pay it forward and do the same for my staff. But like when I went to Hong Kong, the very first meal, he was like, "Here, go to this restaurant. It's a 2-star French restaurant called Amber. They recently got their 3rd star, I think, last year." But he didn't even go. He just sent me alone. He gave me his card and he's
Wow.
like, "Don't worry, I'll take care of the bill." And that was like a 700 Canadian dollar bill, which is, think about this 10 years ago, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
Like even to this day and age, but you can't even find something like that in Canada. So first of all, it's my first Michelin star
Yeah.
experience, getting to experience like the level of service, the caviar, the wagyu, truffles, the foie gras. It's completely eye opening to like you back then, like, and without putting down other restaurants in Canada, I've had tasting menus in Canada. Like I would say a 10 out of 10 for me 10 years ago, especially going with my family, was like auberge du pommier, for example. I was like blown away. Wow, this is incredible. And then you experience something that's just like genuinely miles above what they were. It's just, you're like, wow, I didn't even know food could be this good. And then you have Bon Innovation. At the time, it was like super creative. The stuff that he was doing is just, I wouldn't even have, you could have ran 1,000 simulations in my head. I would have never created dishes like that at that time, right? So it's like completely opening eyes to a whole new world of cooking.
Yeah, it sounds life-changing. Was there any moment just being dropped into professional kitchens, working at this level, working for Alvin, where you thought, wow, this is a lot harder than I thought it would be? Maybe my parents were right, or was it like these experiences of seeing what the potential was within cooking? Did that just excite you so much? It was like, okay, let's just push through this learning curve.
I think there was a mixture of both. I don't think it's one or the other, because on one hand, it was obviously way harder than I thought it would ever be. Like those hours, keep in mind, I'm like also jet lagged. The amount of strain it puts on your body, and to see the technical prowess of all the people around you is, wow, this is really intimidating. You think you're on this like high of, oh my God, I just won MasterChef. And when you see it on TV, everyone's like, man, that guy must be so good. Can't wait to be one of those guys. And then you just get surrounded by people that have been cooking for years. And you're like, man, I am so bad at what I'm doing. I like everybody in the kitchen, even the lowest commie could cook circles around me. So like meeting this cooking show means nothing. It really puts you in your place. And I think it was important to keep you humble, but at the same time, yeah, it was difficult. I was doubting myself, but being as stubborn as I am, I also don't want to prove my parents right and be like, yeah, you're right, it was too hard, I just want to go an engineer. I just spent all this time convincing them that I do want to cook as a career, so of course I'm going to pursue it and power through.
If there was like one or two biggest takeaways from that time, what would it be for you?
I would say the biggest takeaways, probably knowing that there is always somebody miles above you. I think, because a lot of people who don't, I want to say this in the most positive way possible, like a lot of people who strictly dine in Toronto, that don't dine around the world, that consider themselves foodies and they know what food is, it's very narrow-minded, I would say. But then getting to travel, getting to see what is perceived as like truly authentic, and to experience this high level of cuisine is completely eye-opening. And I get both people's perspectives, because there is so many people that just stay in Toronto, or that love Toronto and believe that what they're having here is authentic. So it's understanding their point of view to be able to create food that they'll enjoy as well. Because I'm sure we'll get to it, but when we open R&D, there's definitely those challenges.
When you say the word authentic, is that kind of a reference to having had, say, different kinds of Asian cuisine here versus like when you're actually in Hong Kong and visiting Singapore and places like that? Or are you meaning something else?
I would say a big learning curve, and this is like when we open R&D, for example, we spend all of our time research and developing the menu in Hong Kong. So I would be working night shifts with one of his chefs. So while they were closed from 12 a.m. to 8 a.m., essentially like Canada time, I would be working in their kitchen with one of his sous chefs. And we would be making super authentic flavors. When I say authentic flavors, like we would make oyster sauce from scratch, how it should probably be made with fresh oysters, dry oysters, and have this really pure oyster taste. That's one small example. But everybody here in Canada, when they have oyster sauce, they're used to the taste of lee kum ki, which is like very umami, salty. It doesn't really have much oyster flavor. That's why even a lot of people with oyster allergies and shellfish allergies can have lee kum ki oyster sauce. There's like barely any oysters. So when we launched the menu at R&D and people start tasting like the oyster sauce that we're using, they're like, whoa, this tastes like really weird. However, I would say even now, like a lot of people argue, oh, we want authentic taste. We want authentic. But what they perceive as authentic may not be authentic. It's authentic in their eyes, but what's authentic in my eyes is different, because it's what's actually done and where the dish is from. So it's a huge eye opener where it doesn't really matter what people say. You have to try and view it from their point of view. Like they think it's authentic. Doesn't matter what I think. Where I'm serving them. Of course, I'm gonna have to use lee kum ki. Like we need to dial back what is actually authentic. Like you go to Thailand and you taste any of their curries. That shit's spicy. That is spicy. So when you talk about like authenticity, and I'm sure we have to dial it back here, people are not ready for like authentic Thai spicy.
Yeah.
Like a proper pad grappa was like garlic, chili, like really intense flavors.
Yeah.
You have it here, it's much more toned down,
Yeah.
but people love it. So in that sense, it was a huge eye opener as to running a business.
So you mentioned R&D. I'd love to hear about opening that restaurant. You mentioned you're working for Alvin. Were you working like a full day shift in his kitchen and then the night shift again,
No, so
researching?
it's kind of the whole story was I worked at event with him, like multiple events around
Yeah.
Asia with him, and then probably spent around 6 months total in Hong Kong working at Bonavation just as a commie, as a cook.
Yeah.
And he was like super gracious. He found a place for me to stay, paid for all of that. He offered a salary, which I declined because I was just like, I really just want to learn. You're already doing so much for me. He paid for my flights. Anytime he'd be free, he'd take me out to these like nice restaurants. And that's where I really developed my palate. And he would just, yeah, the most he could have ever done was just like take me to all these places where I could never afford. Anytime he had an event in like different parts of the world, Singapore, Thailand, he would bring me along. And I'm like totally not qualified to be
Yeah.
along with these. But then not only would I get to work in these events on a large scale with all these new people, new ingredients, he would then also take me to the best restaurants in those cities. And then after that, after the 6 months, he's, hey, I want to open a restaurant in Toronto with you. And I was like, okay, whoa, that's totally not what I expected. But it has been a lifelong dream owning a restaurant. And he's like, okay, neither of us have ever had a restaurant in Canada. We're obviously going to need a partner because you're just it's just a nobody. So he
Well, how
approached
old were you at that point? Like
20
22, 23?
22, probably
Yeah.
at this point now.
Yeah.
I was 21 on the show, and then yeah, we passed December, so 22. And then he's like, okay, I'll ask Michael Bonaccini, who had O&B and like they're on the rise. They just opening restaurants left, right, and center.
Yeah.
And then Bonaccini accepted, and then that's when we started like R&Ding the menu. So I guess where are we now? We're approaching 11th year of being open at R&D. So that means we opened 2015. I think I won MasterChef at 2013. So then, yeah, there's a whole year of just flying back and forth from Hong Kong,
Wow.
developing these recipes, not really working. Sometimes I would work shifts, but then for the most part, we were just developing the menu. And then we come back, do all the soft opens and launch.
So what was your vision for R&D?
It was pretty challenging because I'm so new to the industry.
Yeah.
At the time, I was really along for the ride. I wouldn't say I had that much input in terms of menu because I'm going to lean towards Alvin. He just got his 3rd star. Who am I to have any input? And then Bonaccini, who's been operating restaurants, I'm learning from him.
Yeah.
I have no real say. So it's a bit challenging for me to say what my vision was because I was purely a partner and just happy that I'm getting a restaurant.
Did Alvin help you navigate like the financial side of that? Like figuring out like what % partnership you were, how you structure
It
that?
was
Or
just
is this
split
very
3
much-
ways.
Oh.
It was, I owned a third, Alvin owned a third, Mike owned a third. All my MasterChef earnings went towards R&D.
R&D.
Didn't spend a single thing towards myself. So like that full 100K, plus I needed extra from my father to invest in the restaurant. It was about like, I think like a total of about like $250,000 each.
Oh, wow.
So I needed an extra 150 from my dad, and then the rest came from the bank. And then O&B handled all the financials. I was really so new to this. I
Yeah.
wasn't even the head chef of my own restaurant. I'm still learning.
Yeah, but that was a conscious decision on your part?
Yeah, because it's like there's no way I'm not so arrogant or not self-aware of what my capabilities are. Right? I've been experiencing what it's like in Bonavation. It's like I can't run this.
Yeah.
I want to learn from somebody. And it is a weird dynamic when there's people being hired and working. They're like, oh, the owner's here, but there's another chef that I'm reporting to.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a bit weird to navigate through.
I feel like a lot of people, if they had won this big TV show and then worked in a 3-star restaurant and had all these experiences, yes, it was maybe 6 months of work in these restaurants, but I think there are a lot of people that might just say, okay, now I can do it myself. I might make some mistakes, but I'll learn along the way. Whereas you said, you know what, I know my strengths and weaknesses. I still have time to learn. Let me hire a head chef and let me work for him in my own restaurant.
Yeah, I think probably if I didn't go to Asia, maybe I would have had that mindset. But like right away after MasterChef, you go to Asia. So you don't even get to ride like any ego of any sort. Because like
Yeah.
I remember the night of, you're just like, man, I'm the man. I just won this cooking show. Like I beat thousands of cooks. I'm going to be a celebrity. I can't wait to open a restaurant. Of course, it's going to be busy.
Yeah.
And then you literally shortly after go to Singapore and you're like, get put in your place.
Yeah.
You're trash. You're so bad. Like I don't even know why I thought I was like so good, because even the basics of knife skills
Yeah.
is so beneath what a professional chef can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so hard to paint the picture for somebody else, because yeah, you beat a bunch of home cooks, but without sounding too disrespectful, I think any of my cooks here could easily win MasterChef without a doubt, because the stuff that they put up for staff meals is like way better than some of the dishes that I was putting up then that I was proud of. So it's really important that after the show I got put in my place and stayed humble, because there's so many people that are miles better than you. Fortunately, I've been able to travel the world and try the best restaurants and then really know where you stand. I'm not like so arrogant to think that I'm the best in the world, because I'm like so not.
I love the humility. I think it's clearly served you well. What would you say are some of the lessons that you learned at R&D, opening the restaurant, about business, about restaurants, about cooking?
I think we touched on the understanding the demographic that is dining at the restaurant is super important. Like their palate, because for the first part, whenever you open a restaurant, like even I was like super young and like arrogant back then about, I'm cooking food for myself. I'm cooking food that I love. And I think that's a lot of young chefs' mindset.
Yeah.
Is I'm going to cook the food that I love, whether they like it or not, take it or leave it. And I remember it was like super inappropriate. There's multiple times where I'd be like upset when a guest wouldn't like the food. Rather than now, it's if they didn't like it, I think twice, like, why didn't they like it? Is it something that we should have changed? Rather than just, man, get this guy at the restaurant. Like that's the first instinct as a very young, arrogant, immature chef. I remember like getting confrontational with a couple of guests that was like totally not okay. So there's times when it definitely matured me, I would say, opening R&D and understanding the business side. I think the journey of starting with R&D and learning from multiple chefs, learning from O&B, learning how to read P&Ls, how to build and manage inventories has been like paramount to my success here at aKin.
It's so fascinating what you say about learning essentially that restaurants are hospitality and you're there to serve. At the same time, don't you think it's important for a chef to have a clear vision and an identity as a chef, and it might not be for everyone? How do you balance those two things
that's a
out?
very tricky thing, is definitely being able to fulfill your vision while satisfying your demographic
Yeah.
is the biggest challenge to the restaurant. Because even for aKin, I have many visions and ambitions, but I do have to make compromises based on the demographic. I would say like R&D's biggest thing was that we're in Chinatown, right? So a lot of people will always say, I can just get the same food down the road for a quarter of the price. Why would I ever dine here?
Yeah.
So it's like you're always fighting this uphill battle of trying to express or explain that we're using high quality ingredients. We're doing more inventive dishes than just a typical like chow mein. It's not a standard roasted duck. Ours is like brine, dry age, slow cooked, etc. But I think it just takes time to get that message across. Nothing comes quickly.
What did you find was the best way to do that? Is it on the menu? Is it what servers explain on the floor? How did you best communicate that?
I think eventually the food speaks for itself. It just takes a lot longer for certain restaurants than for some restaurants than others.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe word of mouth is the best marketing. As long as guests are happy and are spreading the word, eventually you will be busy. Because like we've tried marketing pushes and all that. Yeah, it gets like a small little burst, but it's not sustainable if people aren't really resonating with the food.
Yeah.
And I think you can tell right away. I think a big turning point for R&D when we really started making a substantial amount of income was after COVID. During COVID was, I think for a lot of chefs, really depressing, not being able to serve guests and putting your hard work into takeout boxes. But I took that time and really developed my skills as a chef. After years of working as a professional, how can we make this better? How can we do better? And after we started, those menus after COVID were the best menus that we ever done. And those are what solidified our signatures to this day.
Okay. Was it just the time to reflect a little bit? And
yeah, it's so rare to actually have time to develop, because when you're operating a restaurant, you have to prep the existing menu, do service, and then in the small hour of time that you have, develop this menu and then develop this one dish. But to actually have like months, time is never a chef's friend. You never have enough time.
Yeah.
But to actually have months to work on yourself as a chef, to have proper like rest, to just work out whenever you want, to take breaks, to just focus on what you love is a once in a lifetime. Like you'll never get that operating a restaurant unless you have unlimited funding that you can just close the restaurant for 1 month, keep all your staff employed and then just keep working on menus, because we are fortunate that you get some government subsidies that can help sustain some of the burden. That chance will never come again.
Especially for someone leading a restaurant alone.
Yeah. You just don't get these opportunities where you just have weeks to work on a menu. I would be disappointed in myself if I couldn't come up with a good menu in weeks.
How did the food evolve?
It's just finally applying what I've tasted throughout the years, like dining at these other Michelin restaurants and higher end restaurants. I'm like self-aware enough that I can taste something and be like, okay, this is definitely not up to par with these other restaurants. And then just slowly refining your food, using better ingredients. I think the approach worked a bit differently. I approached food a little bit differently, where I chose the ingredient first and then made a dish around it, because I wanted more premium ingredients on my menu.
You keep referencing, or I've referenced several times, dining at Michelin-starred establishments, trying to hold yourself to that standard. I feel like that leads very seamlessly into kind of where we're sitting now, which is aKin. I think one of the things that really stood out to me and made an impression to me just as a wine supplier to aKin is months before you'd open. First time I sat down to taste wines with your sommelier, it was put on the table like, we're going for a Michelin star. That's being very vulnerable, because you're just telling the world what your goal is. And so it'll be so obvious if you don't achieve that. So I think it takes real courage, but I guess I'd be curious, how did you know you learned enough at R&D and it was time to open up aKin?
It was a lifelong dream to be a Michelin-starred chef. That's like the whole goal. I think every ambitious chef who gets in the industry, of course, you want your own star. For a long time, that dream was out of the question. Michelin wasn't even in Canada. And then Michelin came. They asked R&D to launch it with Café Beloud. And then literally that year, like Alvin and I agreed, okay, it's time to open a fine dining restaurant. Like, he knew from the start that was my lifelong goal, doing a fine dining restaurant. And I said that in like many interviews, even during R&D. And everyone's all, why R&D then? Why not doing fine dining? It's the first restaurant. I need to learn how to operate restaurants. I don't want to start off with fine dining, because based on what Alvin told me and based on my experience, if you don't know how to operate, like, the margins for fine dining is way smaller, right? Because there's just way more risk. There's so much overhead, whatever. And then we spent 2 years looking for a proper location, finally found one. Then after that, it took 2 years to build, to staff up.
What was it about this location? And what made you want to leave Chinatown? It's still Chinese and Asian inspired cuisine.
Yeah,
Was it as a conscious decision to leave Chinatown?
Not really a conscious decision. We just wanted something centralized. To me, this is quite central Toronto. Like, King and Church is as center as you can be, because being a tasting menu restaurant, you know you're going to be a destination restaurant. You're not going to get walk-ins. We're going to be reservation only, because we need to prepare the food. So knowing that, you need to have a destination that is as centralized as possible. Pulling from Markham, Scarborough, Beaches, Mississauga, Oakville. To me, this is close to a highway exit, and all those different cities can come here. That's the ideal place. Obviously, this one spot had the potential to become our tasting menu, but it's not our number one, or it's not the perfect scenario, because we had to build it from nothing. There was like so much more added costs, because it wasn't an existing restaurant.
What was here before?
It was vacant for 5 years, but it was like a super old Indian restaurant. So they had some HVAC. Downstairs was offices, which we had to then add plumbing and everything. And then that's it. And we had to add the stairs in the front. It was totally not ideal.
Yeah. But what was it like? Because O&B isn't a partner. So this was when you stepping out on your own. What was that transition like, to not having that back end support?
It was equally satisfying to know that after like several years of operating R&D, that I could do it on my own. So it was me getting the bank loan on my own, me getting the health and safety, the fire inspection, getting my liquor license, setting up the website, POS, finding an accountant. Yeah, I did all of that. Like, from ground up, I can confidently say I can open a restaurant on my own. Alvin was obviously an investor. He inputted in the menu. And then when we went severely over budget, we got another partner to invest. But in terms of what is put in this restaurant, I had to sign every single thing. Was my signature. Designer, contractor, equipment, everything. And yeah, it's a lot of work. It was like stressful beyond belief. Yeah. But it's satisfying knowing I could do it.
100%. What was the vision beyond fine dining? What story do you want to tell here? What experience did you want to give guests?
When we opened, I wanted guests to know that I thought of everything. whether that is in the console. There's everything in there: glasses, cutlery, a place to store our wine. We have drawers there for people's purses. I wanted them to never be like, oh, I need something and us not have it.
Right.
I have branded reading glasses in case they forget it. I have phone chargers. I have blankets in case they're cold. I want guests to feel comfortable and to know that anything that they could need, I would have. That's number one. And then number two was to try and offer a unique dining experience that Toronto isn't offering. And when it comes to tasting menus, there is French, Italian, like everywhere, Canadian cuisine, and then a lot of omakase. But there wasn't necessarily a global Asian focused tasting menu, only restaurant, right?
Yeah.
There's the Pine at the time, but I meant in Toronto. So knowing that, I wanted a very unique cuisine and experience, and for it to be at least on par with the other tasting menus. And I think we accomplished that.
What are some of your favorite dishes that you've come up with, you and the team here so far in the time you've been open?
I think it's hard to pick a favorite because it's like picking a favorite kid, but the ones that the guests have resonated the most with would be one, our lobster with laksa. Everybody seems to really like laksa and always says, oh, I can't find laksa in Toronto. I was like, that's exactly what we're going for. We want to offer things that aren't necessarily available anywhere else. And then most of our one bite, like reverse spheres, everybody loves the experience.
What is a reverse sphere?
Or spherification, sorry.
Okay.
But the technique is reverse spherification. So it's always like a one bite mouthful that bursts. So when we opened, I think the one that you had would have been like our hot pot. And then we've done like ginseng soup, tom yum, Hainan chicken rice, xiaolongbao, and our current one is a pho. So it's a one bite pho burst.
Are there any dishes that have been so popular that you just feel like menus might change, but like this dish is going to stay, or is it total menu flips every time?
We're currently on our 7th menu since we opened just over a year ago. So we change it every 2 months. I'd say one of the more recurring ones has been our caviar beignet. Just, yeah, everybody loves like a donut with caviar, sour cream.
Yeah, I think that was in the opening menu. Yeah, I remember that. That was really good.
But yeah, it's currently on our 7th. It's currently on our menu with a scallion snow, a smoked kombu, a sour cream. But we will be removing it for the Chinese New Year one. We just need to take a break again, yeah. Maybe it'll come back.
Cool. And how often does the menu change?
Every 2 months on average. 7th menu in 13 months.
Okay. And then you mentioned, just in the context of what a gift COVID was in some ways for you to take this time to really refine your technique. How do you find the time with the team to work on new menu items? Like, is it a solo thing? Is it something you work with a couple staff members on? What is that kind of creative process like?
It's definitely a whole team effort. There's no way I could do what I do here without my team by any means. You always have to find the time. Like the hours just get much longer. There's no nice way of saying it. But like our most technical menu was probably the one leading up to Michelin, which was our 6th menu, our street food menu. That one had the most technique and the most labor involved because prior to Michelin, we were super slow. Like in the summertime is usually slow when we don't have a patio and whatever, everybody's out. But at the same time, it was like, I think the economy was in a really bad place. If you think about May last year, right? So like we had a dim sum menu that was really good. And then with all this extra time of being so slow, we are like, let's do a banging, unbelievable menu so that once the Michelin is announced, which we all knew was September, that when people come in to try the restaurant, they'll be like super blown away. So having that extra time definitely reflected in our menu. And then post Michelin, it was like, holy shit, this is so labor intensive. Everybody's working like 16-hour days, six to 7 days a week. It's unsustainable. We need to change the menu fast.
Yeah.
And then this menu is a good reflection of all of our 6 menus that can be executed in volume, super delicious, super well composed and refined. So it's a good menu that kind of reflects our journey of the year. And then the next one will be another, I don't want to say like super labor intensive, but a bit more intricate after that. But yeah, it definitely reflects how much time we have. Because this menu, I would say it's really good, but if you have had every menu prior, you would see a few repeats because we just didn't have the time to fully develop another full 10 courses. But the next one will be another new 10 courses.
I'm excited to get into the Michelin story and what happened when everything came out. But you referenced before the guide was released towards the end of last year, things were a little slow. What was that? What was the first year like open, and how did you find Toronto responded before there was this very well-known accolade attached to
Mm.
the restaurant.
It's hard because the first year of any restaurant's the hardest, but especially doing what we're doing is extremely ambitious. Without any accolades, people are not going to spend that amount. So when we
Yeah.
first opened, our menu was $275 for the dining room and then $350 for the chef counter, which is above most tasting menus in Toronto already. But that was just the cost it was to use the ingredients that we needed. So like to have the uni, to have the foie, to have the wagyu, to have the caviar, all of that to make your margins. So you can't really look at it like the first month of any restaurant. I think the first month of any restaurant should be pretty busy because it's like a new restaurant. Toronto is like always looking for something new. So December was great. Like making money in your first month of a restaurant, like super good. January comes along, starts to trickle off. You're like, okay, I guess like the opening wave is slowly coming down. And then you start wondering, oh, why? Is it because the food's bad or it's too expensive? And then February, Valentine's is always super busy. So you're still good. And then March comes and you're just like, oh yeah. This is now you start to worry because now you're like super slow. And then I know that every year, September is Michelin, right? We have half a year before Michelin.
Yeah.
So then March and April was like, my God, it was bad. It was really slow. You start to have like shareholders meeting, see, oh my God, we need like emergency funds. Everybody's on salary, right?
Yeah.
So like the overhead is insane. The amount of ingredients that will spoil if you don't have business for a fine dining restaurant is catastrophic because we need the fresh ingredients. So like uni, for example, like a flat of uni is, let's just say 60 portions, just roughly 60 portions, but you're doing like 15 covers a night. I don't want to hold a flat of uni for 4 nights.
Yeah.
So you have to, now you're just giving people more uni or you're throwing it out.
Yeah.
So now your food cost goes up. Your labor's the same because you're on salary and now your margins are just like, choop, gone. So my vision is slowly starting to slip because when we launched, I want it to be a full blind tasting menu. I don't want to post any photos of the food. I want only the people that dine here to see the food and to not, I find it's a much more immersive experience when you don't know what the menu is and you fully trust the chef. But without any accolades and without any other restaurant doing what we're doing, it's a really hard sell. And I get that because they don't have a star. Why should I go there? I have no idea what they're doing. What is modern Asian cuisine? Nobody even knows what that is. It's like, I don't get what they're doing. What is it? Is it a Chinese restaurant? Why are they charging so much for a Chinese restaurant? So there's so many question marks. And then you have these meetings of, okay, I guess we need to post the menu so people at least have an idea of what we do. And then even reading the menu is not a good indication of what we do. Even currently, I post the menu, but like on the menu says, one of the dishes says pho, beef, Thai basil, noodles, whatever. But what you actually get is like a sphere. It's totally not anything indicative of what we do. So like it's an idea of kind of the cuisine that we do, a little bit of story, but you still won't know. There's a dish called Tied to Table. We're using caviar, lobster, uni, crab, but the description just says bone, liver, flesh, egg, skin, because I'm using 5 components of the fish. So now people don't really care because we have our star. But before then, I need to start leaking out photos of the dishes so people can actually see like the cool stuff we're doing.
Yeah.
And then shareholders are like, no, we need to do a la carte. People are just not doing tasting menu. We need to do a la carte. And I was like, I don't want to do a la carte. You're going to completely fuck up like my whole vision. And I don't want to risk Michelin either. Because like now you're going to start letting standards slip. Now you have like tasting menu, a la carte. You have twice the amount of inventory, twice the amount of waste. It's really hard to manage. So I'm just like, we just need to power through.
That's interesting because earlier you said one of the lessons of R&D was a little bit of meeting your guests where they're at. But in this case, in this very challenging first year, you had the conviction to stick to at least the format of the restaurant.
There's a huge difference in the mindset. One, I'm way more experienced now. But 2, it's not that the guests weren't resonating with the food and I had to adapt. It's that the guests weren't coming.
Yeah, there just weren't
That's
enough.
a big difference. I'm not adapting to the demographic because I know the demographic exists. I know Alo's full every night. I know people are there for tasting menus and are dining out. We're just not recognized enough for them to dine here. So it's not that I ever had doubt in the food because everybody who came and dined here loved it. Whatever, that's bullshit. Like 90%, okay? Majority of people who dined here like absolutely loved it and was like, oh, I can't wait to come back to try the new menu. It's getting new people to be aware of what we do and to trusting spending that amount and coming in blind because it is a big ask from a lot of people because like you're saving up for it. It's 10 courses that you have no idea what to expect. But once you get the accolades, I know they can then have trust. It's okay. Like we are now a lot of guests like first Michelin restaurant. A lot of people say, oh, this is my first time dining at a Michelin-starred restaurant, but they're only coming because we have a star.
Yeah.
So powering through those 6 months was financially draining, mentally draining. It was not good. So then summertime is like super slow. We decided to close an extra 2 days just to give the existing staff, opening staff, like a good work-life balance. Because, okay, we're going to lose money anyways. Everybody spend more time with their friends, family, and it was great. Like we were only open 4 days and we just had more time to do other things, to go see movies, hang out with friends, to spend time with family. But we were losing a lot of money every month, and it's a risk of fine dining. And then Michelin came around and like literally 180 the business drastically. Like we made all that back within 2 months.
Do you think the restaurant could have kept going if it hadn't gotten the star?
Hell no. Hell no. There's no way. If we didn't get a star, that's the amount of pressure that it was though. Because I don't think people understand the all-in like risk of going for a star. The amount of financial burden. One, imagine if we didn't get a star. Not only would we need to find another $500,000 to float us for another year, the amount of staff that we would probably lose, because who else could mentally go through another full year of being like, okay, I'll chase a star with you again. They'll probably just go work at another starred restaurant. Although we are unique, although it's fun working here and whatnot, it's like, you have to be real. A lot of these members would be like, I don't know if I can stick it another full year chasing something that may not come. So it's, I really think that would be the end of us if we didn't get the star. Like that's the amount of pressure. And that's why I was like so anxious leading up to Michelin. It's like, dude, if we don't get the star, we're like 2.5 years of my life of an amount of funds going into this restaurant is done for. I knew a lot about how the process worked because R&D has gotten a bib gourmand every year. So I knew if they ask for the photos, the invite to fill out the questionnaire, it's a good sign. You're in the guide at least. I've never gotten a star before, so I don't know if it's any different. Nothing was different. It's just, you just go there, you go in blind, and you just pray. And that was it. I knew that I was probably getting the Young Chef Award because they had asked for an interview like 2 weeks before the ceremony. And like all the questions that they asked was almost the identical questions as they asked Rafa, who won the previous year. And then I asked one of our bartenders who works here, Shane, he won the bartender award the previous 2 years. And he was like, oh, it was the same thing.
He's great, by the way.
Yeah.
I did a cocktail pairing when I dined here and it was so good.
Yeah. So there's good signs there. And then every single, like you go down this huge rabbit hole of once they send the questionnaire, they send the description of what they're going to put in the guide for aKin. And like, I'm reading the language and I was like, okay, this sounds pretty promising for a star. And then I start like reading every single description of every starred restaurant in Toronto and comparing, does this sound as positive as those ones? Or does it sound like the ones that didn't get a star? And I was like, okay, it sounds pretty positive when they're talking about like the technical prowess coming out of the kitchen or whatever. And I was like, okay. And then I start comparing globally how many people get the Michelin Young Chef Award and how many of those restaurants get a star the same year. And it was looking like 50-50. And I was like, oh my God, this is not good. Because Rafa got the Young Chef Award and then got a star. The year or 2 years ago, whatever, David Schwartz got the Young Chef Award. Mimi's didn't get a star. So I was like, okay, it's not guaranteed that if you get the Young Chef, you get a star. And then globally, I'm like, okay, it's looking pretty good. The week before Toronto's ceremony, Colorado's guide came out and I'm like rapidly like reading it. And like the Young Chef, their restaurant looks fine dining, looks a lot like we do, didn't get a star. And I was like, oh my God.
It's like an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, I know. So I was just like panicking. Oh my God. If we don't get a star, I'm like done for. I'm literally like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm done. And my wife's, yeah, you'll be fine. You just keep going on. My parents are like, no, you can just do one more. I'm like, I can't. You don't understand. I can't. This is all or nothing. And yeah, like the staff that are with me today, like definitely saw the stress it was bearing.
Yeah.
Cause yeah, if you don't get the star, I really don't know what we'd be doing, where I'd be today.
What was it like that moment you found out? Was it just relief? Was it joy? Did you cry?
It was all of the above. Yeah. Relief, joy, gratitude, satisfaction, validation of all the hard work, everything in one moment. It was like probably the greatest moment of my life was getting the star at that moment.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And what effect did it have on the restaurant? You mentioned you made the money back very quickly. What were bookings like the week before and then the week after?
Like we were like so naive as to how much power Michelin had. Because that night we booked like 700 resos. That night, like within 24 hours, 700 resos booked.
How many weeks is that? Because
We only open 1 month at a time.
okay,
So January 1st, we open for February.
okay.
So in September, we were only open until end of October.
And-
And I didn't even know we could take that many reservations. The day
Yeah.
after, another 600 booked. So
Yeah.
you're talking about 1,300 reservations booked in 48 hours. And you can just do the math. Like at a
Yeah.
minimum, they're spending $250 per person.
Yeah.
So that's more covers than we've done the previous like 3-4 months. So it's already, you're just like, holy shit, there's so many reservations. And then we didn't even get, since they were already released, we can't even change the format of what we do. We just have to like power through and suffer. Like-
Yeah, because you mentioned that you were doing this like incredibly labor intensive menu because you're like, okay, we might have 10, 15 covers a night.
So then
let's
we're
do
like,
that.
in my mind, I'm like, okay, like after mission, yeah, we'll probably do 40 covers a night, but it's like full every night, like
Yeah.
60 plus private dining room inquiries. Like we had to turn away business. We had to limit reservations just so we can catch up and sleep. We had to close an extra days to make sure people can get 2 days off.
Yeah.
So there was a lot that we had to quickly adapt and do because although you want to make your money back right away, it's okay. I'd rather be more difficult to book and create a hype and maintain your standards and make sure your staff doesn't burn out right away. So we like staff up. We did staff up fortunately prior to Michelin, but not enough. Like
Yeah.
we hired an extra cook, like 2 servers. We just need way more.
Okay.
Like we needed 3 hosts. We need 5 servers. We need way more line cooks. But yeah, everybody was like riding high and committed to making it work. So I'm fortunate to have the staff that I have
Yeah.
that are equally as proud of where they work and as committed to the business that I am.
How long did it take you guys to get, I guess, comfortable with this huge spike in volume?
We leveled up pretty quick, like from going, like a busy night for us prior would be like 30. And keep in mind, I was doing this one dumpling that would take 10 minutes to fold at the time.
A
right?
single dumpling.
A single dumpling with 120 pleats.
Wow.
It had 150 pleats. This
Wow.
one dumpling that was like, because it looks so dope.
Yeah.
But like now you're talking about 50 covers a night, 60 covers a night. That's 600 minutes, man. That's 10 hours,
Yeah.
dude. I'm like here the whole time. So I was like, you find another way to fold it
Yeah.
and you just power through and you like level up. So like at the time, 30 covers was a lot. And then it was like, I can't even believe we're doing 50 every night. And we capped it at 50.
Yeah.
And then eventually 50 became comfortable and then 60. And then there's 70 or like whatever, 65s after you do PDRs.
Yeah.
I would say it took us about a month to get like really comfortable. And then we changed the menu. And then like right now it's like a slow night for us is like 40 something.
Okay.
It's like a cakewalk. It's like people are chilling.
Wow.
And then 60 is like super comfortable because it just becomes the new norm. But yeah, it was definitely like a huge spike in business and everything.
It's incredible to hear the power of that. Because like someone in hospitality, you hear about it, the stars, and you think, no, this just means it's going to be some of the best food. It's going to have an interesting opinion. It's going to tell a story. I didn't quite realize the economic implications.
Yeah, I didn't know it was. I don't think anybody could have expected that amount though. And I
Yeah.
think maybe it was because we were the only one to get a star that year. Normally there's multiple restaurants and maybe it's like split and divided. But being the only one to earn a star, like all of that just funnels to one location.
And you mentioned how like almost all restaurants are going to be busy their first month because people just seek out what's new. Has that Michelin bump faded away, or are you saying it's the new normal is
Oh, no,
now,
we're like-
way higher than it was?
Yeah, there's wait lists. We're just full every night.
okay. That's
Like, yeah,
great.
it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a long time, even in October, we didn't accept PDRs because we just couldn't handle the volume. But then like November, December, we took all the PDRs and yeah, it's been very good.
What's changed for the staff? You mentioned you decided to keep closed an extra day. I think I read somewhere you gave everyone a raise.
I treat loyalty as my number one value, right? So everybody that sticks with me longer, they always get raises. It's not necessarily like right after mission, everybody gets a raise. It's the ones who've been with me. Every 3 months, we reevaluate salaries and everybody working with me has had their salary increase. The longer you work, the more you earn. I'm not really a super like greedy owner. I like to share in the profits, take the staff out to dine, take the staff out for drinks. I do the same thing that Alvin does. Every time I am at an outing with any of my staff, I cover the bill. And it's important because I treat my staff like my family. Because everybody who I hire during an interview, I say, it doesn't really matter what your skills are. It only matters if I like you because I see you more than my own friends and family. So if I don't like you, I'm not going to hire you. It's really important that the vibe is there and that you get along with everybody else. And that's what makes it enjoyable coming to work every day is because I get to spend I essentially do what I love to do, my lifelong dream with essentially a family.
How often do you try to take staff out?
As literally as frequent as possible. There's been times where it's like once a week at the end of every Saturday, we go to Haidilao, we go to tasting menus, whatever it may be, whenever we find the time. I don't say there's an exact calendar, but I'd say the most recent outing was treating my sous chef to Hexagon before Rafa's last shift. It's important that they taste the best restaurants in Toronto. It's like, go to these restaurants. A lot of people ask, what you must really love, like Alo, because I go there so often prior to aKin opening. And I was like, no, I go to Alo because everybody says they're the best. So I want to see why other people call them the best. Of course they're good. It's I'm not saying I don't like it. It's just that it's important to see why other people call them the best. So I go to all these places and I go to Pearl and these restaurants to be like, okay, what earned them their 2 stars?
Yeah.
Of course I'm curious, but it's tasting that is the most important thing for me.
More generally, having dined at so many of the great restaurants here in Ontario and around the world, what do you think makes for a great restaurant?
It's challenging because I literally just spent last week, I just went to New York and tried to eat at the best restaurants. So Adamix, which got North America's #1 on San Pellegrinos, 11 Madison Park, which has 3 stars for who knows how long, and to see what they're doing with plant-based food.
Although they serve meat now, right? Or
Yeah,
is it still,
they have
still
3
very
courses of
plant-driven?
meat now.
Yeah.
Aska, they have 2 Michelin stars, and then Noxus is like 1 Michelin star, 1 in the Subway.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are, oh man, you must really love food. Dude, do you think I enjoy? Dude, my New York bill was like 15 grand, man. I do this because I genuinely want to see what the best is doing out there. And in my opinion, it's a mixture of really good tasting food, but also the storytelling. The storytelling at Adamix is pretty incredible, unrivaled, I would say. You get this card that it's also smart because like you get this card that describes almost everything a server would say with all the ingredients, with the story behind it, a good take home gift as well. But then also the food is delicious. It's an incredible balance of explaining why they're so goddamn smart. You know what I mean? It's without that card, it is just food. But like when it explains in depth, like what they're doing to these ingredients and how they're creating the dishes they're creating, it adds value of, wow, these guys are pretty incredible. Because when you taste it with your eyes closed, you wouldn't know that all these things are going into it. And like the interaction that you get between a server can only be like so long before it gets, man, dude, you're draining me. Like I can only talk to a table so long about like how long this reverse verification took and all the work that went into it without sounding, please appreciate it.
Yeah.
So the storytelling is,
But the card didn't feel that way?
the card didn't feel that way. No, because it's like, you can take the amount of information that you want or not, but like it's there for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot of restaurants are starting to do this. I see like a card, whatever, visuals and some stuff to fill the gap. That was, although it was 2.5 hours, it felt like it could have probably been longer if I hadn't took my time reading. But there's just always so much information coming, like from a server, from the card, from looking at this, from tasting, like everything. There's like all the senses. That's just one example though. Like dining at like Alchemist, for example, that's like a 6-hour tasting menu is 50 courses, was also like a once in a lifetime experience where there's just so much happening. There's only ever been like 1 or 2 times where I've eaten at a restaurant, and this is like my favorite menu in the whole world, favorite restaurant in the whole world, is Disfrutar. It's a 3-star in Barcelona. They also got San Pellegrino's best restaurant in the world, I think 2 years ago. That was one of the restaurants that I ate at, and I'm like, man, I am never going to be this good.
What was it about that spot?
Dude, they're doing stuff that I can't even understand how they do it, because they're from El Bulli, so they're doing a lot of like molecular stuff and executed perfectly. Like it was like a symphony. There's times where you go to a restaurant and you're like, as a chef, you eat it and you're like, I could cook at this level, I could do this with the right staff, whatever. You make all these like bullshit excuses for yourself. Like, yeah, if I had the equipment and money and staff, I could do this. But like, it doesn't matter how long I have in my life, I could never be that good. Like, genuinely, I could never be as good as they are at Disfrutar. Doesn't matter. Like, you could lock me in a time machine. I just know I'll never be that good. So there's only been like a few restaurants like that I've dined at, and like, holy shit, these guys are unbelievable.
Is that motivating or is that
No,
demotivating?
Completely the opposite. That was like the one meal I was like, dude, I'm like, this was the best meal of my life. And also like equally demotivating because I'm like, I am never going to be this good. So it's just certain dreams that you give up on. You're like, do I think I'll ever get 3 stars? No, no, because they're just like, The 3-star level is insane. Yeah.
Never lands with people as motivated and self-deprecating as you, but it's that attitude that probably means you will be able to achieve more and more because you're never satisfied.
Yeah. My wife always asks, like, you keep moving the goalposts. Like, when will it be enough? I don't know.
How is EMP?
EMP, considering it's plant-based, is pretty incredible.
Oh.
Like, pretty eye-opening. I was like, personally, I would still rather just have meat, because what I found impressive was that they're doing stuff that tastes like it's not just plant-based.
No.
But in my opinion, it's,
You mean it tasted like meat?
dude, they had this like soba noodle dish, and the broth was like so meaty and like sticky. And they're like, yeah, it's like koji and whatever, all this stuff. I was like, dude, this is insane. I
Yeah.
cannot believe this is plant-based.
Yeah.
Like, it tasted like one of the best broths I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And it was plant-based.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like, if I'm going to eat vegetables, I'd rather just eat a vegetable. I don't know. He had this like land caviar thing that was like this seed from a tree. And then they season it with like seaweed and stuff to make it taste like caviar, which is so impressive. And I was just like blown away. Dude, they're making stocks taste like meat and like caviar taste like caviar, but from plants. It's impressive. But if it's just a personal thing that I don't personally, if you're going to use vegetables, I just want it to taste like a vegetable. That's all. That's just me personally, because
Yeah.
I'm really against impossible meats. I don't know
Well,
if
yeah,
I should be saying that, but I just hate people that try so hard
Well-
to make a not steak taste like a steak. It's like, dude, I don't know if vegetarians.
Who is it for? Because
Yeah.
like my wife's vegetarian because she doesn't want to eat meat.
Correct.
so-
Correct. So there's so many vegetarians I personally know, and vegans, that there are some vegans that I know. They're like, dude, I really want to eat a steak. I'm like, dude,
Just eat
don't
it.
be a vegan, man. That's just my perspective.
No.
I don't know. I'm going to get flamed for saying that, but then just eat a vegetable. That's it. Like, these plant-based things are so expensive.
That's the thing that got me, because I never had their menu, because I was just like, even though my wife's vegetarian, we only go together to a place that has a great vegetarian tasting menu. We're still like, that's too much money for a vegetable.
Yeah, because there was one dish that they did. It was a squash with this delicious, almost like a tom yum curry with it. That
Yeah.
sauce was incredible. It would have been so much better with lobster or something like with the protein. It just would have been so much better. But I don't know. It was a squash. Personally, as a vegetarian, if I were a vegetarian, I would be so happy with that.
Yeah.
But they're trying to be as inclusive and bring people in. I don't know. In my opinion, it would have been so much better with a scallop, a lobster, anything.
Did you let them know that, or you kept that to
No,
yourself?
no, I didn't let them know that, but I was very impressed with EMP. Yeah, super impressed.
Yeah. It's incredible to keep that standard going for so long. I would just be worried. I've been established for so long. Maybe
Mhm.
it's getting a little stale, but
No,
clear-
their creativity is unrivaled. Yeah, it's amazing to see what they can do with. Dude, I had their bread and butter course without butter. It's insane. Yeah, I can't even believe it. It's like a sunflower butter with like caramelized onions, and they made this like delicious, like almost laminated dough, like croissant, but without butter.
wow.
So they used like a sunflower butter and coconut oil, they said. But it just tasted so buttery and
Yeah.
so good. But yeah, I was like blown away. It's just crazy what they can do with plants.
Wow, that's so impressive. From that trip to New York and maybe any other recent trips, what will you be bringing back for aKin? Yeah, I guess you mentioned the storytelling. Did that get some ideas flowing of how to incorporate that even more here?
Maybe eventually when one day we would like really push. I think right now we're very happy with where we are. And I just want to keep creating new menus and food. I really want to be like taste and food focused.
Yeah.
More than the storytelling right now, personally. And then eventually when we're a bit more developed, then I'll focus on the storytelling. But I don't know, even Alvin's motto is taste is king. So I really just want to make really tasty food and new flavors for guests to have.
Shifting gears just a little bit, for people who want to really succeed in hospitality at a high level, but still have a family, are there any advice you can share? You mentioned a supportive wife. What do you think are the keys to making it happen? Just because it can be so challenging with the hours and working every weekend and that kind of schedule.
I don't want to speak from a point where it sounds like I have everything figured out.
No.
It's definitely straining on the family and the relationship. But at the end of the day, like I tell every ambitious chef, it's a passion-driven industry. You have to genuinely be really passionate about what you're doing. Because like where we are, and my example, I'd say is a very small sample of many chefs out there, right? There's a lot of chefs out there that may not earn the same amount of income, may not get a family just because the hours work. Fortunately, I found my wife before I really dove into the restaurant industry. I met her before I even started going to Hong Kong.
Wow.
Too bad. She's stuck with me now. But yeah, it's challenging because I see some of my like chefs, they don't have the opportunity to go on dates and stuff because they're just working. So as long as you're passionate, and when I say passion, what I view as passion is like somebody who's willing to put 100% in it and live and breathe this. I'm talking about go home instead of just doom scrolling. You're looking at like food videos, you're learning new techniques. That's the level of passion that I have. Even after a 14-hour day, I go home and watch more food videos. On my off days, I want to go try new restaurants. I want to go taste. The amount of chefs that I interview and ask, and it's not even about the savings or money. Like they'd rather spend it all on booze, cigarettes, random stuff. But if you're really passionate about it, you want to save up, try these restaurants. You want to taste what's
Yeah.
out there. That's the greatest thing. And I know a lot of people don't value that, but that's the reason why I became the chef I am today. Is like trying these other restaurants. I don't know how many other restaurants or chefs in the guide in Toronto have even tried the other restaurants. Genuinely, I don't know, because not a lot of them have come to aKin. That's for sure, because they're just so busy or whatnot. But I genuinely make an effort to go out and try Quetzal, Hexagon, 20 Victoria, like all the other restaurants. I've been there. And yeah, I think it's just as important to just be as passionate towards eating as there is towards cooking, because that's how you develop that's how you get inspiration. That's how you develop your palate. But in terms of like work-life balance, I don't even know what that truly is, because everybody has a different balance. I'm just fortunate that my partner, I would say she understands. People understand to a certain degree, because yeah, eventually she doesn't want me working these hours, obviously. And she just mentions, yeah, the goal keeps changing. It's like your lifelong goal is a star. You got it now. Why do you have to keep chasing it? I was like, I want to maintain it now and maybe get two. And then she's, what if you get two? And it's, I don't know. So it is hard. Like any young chef getting into it needs to know that to get to the top, you need to put in an insane amount of hours. And the amount of sacrifice that you have to put in to succeed is, I think a lot of people outside of the industry, even some in the industry, don't really realize what that means. Like the amount of like genuine sacrifice from time, friends, family, sometimes health. It's crazy how many people, I try and go to the gym and stay healthy, but the amount of people that just get in this industry and just work crazy hours. Yeah. It's something kind of overlooked.
If you're working insane hours, not having a chance to work out, that's not a recipe for long-term health, is
Yeah.
it? Yeah. Is it worth it? That
For me, it is.
sacrifice, yeah.
I don't know. Being a chef is like one of the most gratifying jobs out there, because you can see the work that you put in instantly.
Yeah.
In terms of looking into the dining room, seeing the guest face, seeing them talk, like hearing them talk about the food. That to me is one of the most like gratifying jobs out there. And when people actually resonate with the food, when you actually put in these hours of prep, you finally get to see it on the plate. You get to see somebody eat it, especially on the chef counter. I don't know what else is there. As an actor, you can't really see unless you're there in the theater watching people watch your movie, which is like super vain.
Yeah.
Like what other jobs out there where you get the immediate gratification that like, man, these guys love what I'm doing.
Yeah. You're so connected to the product of your work, and its enjoyment is like right there.
Yeah. There's so many other industries and jobs where you're working with people that may not be passionate about their job. But when you're surrounded by people that love it as much as you do, it's one of the best environments out there. I don't know. The hours are long, but they don't feel long. Like from a outside point of view, it feels long because based on numbers, yeah, no other job you work, whatever, 80 hours a week. But I don't know. It doesn't feel that way. I don't know. I love what I do. I love coming to work. I love working with my staff and like shooting the shit, sitting down for staff meal, running service, like a bang. Nothing's greater than like a banging service.
Yeah.
Like crushing a service. Everything was flawless. You're vibing with the guests. You like laugh with the staff and servers. There's nothing that beats that. There's no thrill that beats like a incredible service where you're just like in flow state. Like you don't have to say anything to your staff. I know he's doing this. I know he's plating that. I'm going to clear this. There's just a synergy that can't be replaced. That can't be fulfilled doing anything else. It's so thrilling, exciting, just filled with passion. I don't know. I love what we do.
It must be so gratifying to love it and then have the world acknowledge that in the form of getting that star and then now being busy.
Yeah, that's literally all anyone can ever hope for, really. Like full restaurant and love what you do.
Yeah. To wrap things up, beyond what you've already mentioned, for people younger in the industry, what advice would you have?
I think it's definitely a young man's game for sure in terms of your body, your physicality. Taking care of health is obviously important, but in terms of developing as a young chef, just really not chasing the titles or the money first. It's so important just to learn somewhere from a solid restaurant, get your foundation right. Because
Mhm.
once your foundation's set, you can't really change it. There's so many people that I don't know, like the amount of people that have tried to come from being like a sous chef at Joey's or a chain restaurant. I don't want to say Joey's, like a franchise, like a chain
Yeah.
restaurant that may not necessarily be
Fine dining.
sure fine dining. We'll just say that like a higher end restaurant, and their skills are just so bad. Their habits are so bad, and still haven't tasted around the city. It's like number one as a young chef, eat above all else. Taste restaurants, travel, save up to eat. It's super important. And then two is finding a restaurant that you can genuinely get good habits from. And I think watching eater episodes and watching content can you really appreciate and realize what a high level restaurant functions. Like when you actually see these videos on YouTube, there's so much content out there. Like even one just came out, like a 20-minute video on how 11 Madison Park operates, like 70 staff and how structured they are. It's incredible.
Yeah. I've also read Will Guidar's book, Unreasonable Hospitality.
Yeah.
There's so
There's
much.
just so much out there
Yeah.
that you can just consume, but it's just taking that other step of, I already know like you're tired from your 12-hour day, but like that extra half hour in bed of either reading or consuming more content will add up. It makes a huge difference.
Last question. Just what keeps you excited and motivated?
I'd say what keeps me motivated is making sure all the sacrifice is worth it. That's like the number one motivation for me. The amount of sacrifice I've had to give up spending time with my son, spending time with my friends and family, financial burdens, whatever that may be, as well as now, like you get used to a certain lifestyle. It's the only thing that pushed me. Because if you just give up and like let up now, all of that would be wasted. Imagine if this restaurant, if I didn't get a start, that's why I would push so hard. If I didn't get that, then all of that time away from my friends and family would have been for nothing.
Yeah.
So at least you might as well make that sacrifice worth it. And that's what it is. I think that's a lot of people's motivation in this industry is you get to a certain point where you've already put in so much work, so much investment of your own personal time. You have to make this worthwhile.
Yeah. What is that though now? You've got the star. So is it maintaining the star?
Yeah, I would say maintain the star and making sure that everybody who has been along this journey gets to relish in the rewards as well.
Yeah.
Whether that's staff, family, friends, my wife, taking her on vacation, whatever. Like you have to at least reward the people that got you here.
I think that's beautiful. Chef Eric, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.